Shalom Mishpachim, welcome to His Narrow Bridge. Our time together today is meant to immerse ourselves in the Word of Yahweh. It is meant to be a personal time of connection to the Word for each of us. I will read each word as translated in English in an interlinear Hebrew Bible. These shows are pre-recorded, so I will be in chat when they air. Feel free to use the chat to post anything that comes to your mind as we read the word. We will begin with prayer, followed by time for each of us to say our own personal prayers. Our beloved friend Alan Horvath taught us, make Elohim number one on a list of one. We pray in the name of Elohim, which includes Yahweh, Yeshua, and the Ruach HaKodesh. Thank you, Elohim, for our lives and all you provide. We ask for a hedge of protection around our mishpacha as we pray and study. We love you dearly. We are your children. We come to you with questions as we seek our personal relationships with you. Please help us learn. If any darkness enters our time together, we ask you now to rebuke it. We will now listen to your word as we immerse ourselves in it and let it speak to us. Mark chapter 11. And when he drew near to Jerusalem, towards Bethphage and Bethania, by the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples. And he said to them, go to that village that is opposite to us, and at once, when you enter it, you will find a colt that is tied up, which no man has ridden. Loose it and bring it to me. And if anyone should say to you, why are you doing this? Say to him that our master requires it, and immediately he will send him here. And they went and found the colt which was tied up at the door outside on the street. And while they loosed him, some of those who were standing there said to him, what are you doing loosing the colt? And they said to them, as Yeshua had commanded them, and they allowed them. And they brought the colt to Yeshua and placed their garments upon it, and Yeshua rode upon it. And many were spreading their garments on the road, and others were cutting branches from trees and spreading them on the road. And those who were in front of him and those who were behind him were crying out and saying, Ushana. That's Psalm 118:25. So here's Psalm 118. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto. Verse 25. I pray, Yahweh, save now. I pray, Yahweh, send prosperity now. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Master Yahweh. And that is Psalm 118:26. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. We have blessed you from the house of Yahweh. And blessed is the kingdom of our father Dawid that is coming. Ushana in the highest. And Yeshua entered Jerusalem and saw the temple and everything. Now when the time of evening arrived, he went out to Bethania with the 12. And on another day, when he went out from Bethania, he hungered. And he saw a certain fig tree from afar that had leaves on it. And he came towards it to see if he could find anything on it. And when he arrived, he did not find anything on it except leaves, for the time of figs had not yet arrived. And he said to it, Now and forever man will not eat fruit from you. And his disciples heard it, and they came to Jerusalem. And Yeshua entered the temple of Elohim and began to drive out those who were buying and selling in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who were selling doves. And he would not allow anyone to carry possessions inside the temple. And he would teach and say to them, Is it not written that my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations? But you have made it a den of robbers. Isaiah 56, verse 7. And even them I will bring to mountain my holy, and make them joyful in house of my prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house, a house of prayer, shall be called for all nations.
Havienu el har kodesh v'samchenu beveis tefilosecha kema shekasuv kema shekasuv v'haviosim El har kodeshi v'simachtim 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 Ohoi beveis tefilasi tefilasi Oloseihem v'zicheihem lerotzon al mizbechi Oloseihem v'zicheihem lerotzon al mizbechi Oiloseihem v'zicheihem lerotzon al mizbechi Oiloseihem v'zicheihem lerotzon al mizbechi Oiloseihem v'zicheihem lerotzon al mizbechi Bechi Ki veisi beis tefila, ki veis beveis tefila, yikure, 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 lecha, amin.
Jeremiah 7, verse 11. Has a den of thieves become house this, which is called by my name, upon in your eyes? Even I, behold, I have seen it, says Yahweh. Verse 18. The chief priests and the scribes heard it and were seeking how they might destroy him, for they were afraid of him because all the people were astonished at his teaching. And when it became evening, they went outside of the city. And in the morning, while they were passing by, they saw that fig tree dried up from its root. And Shimon remembered and said to him, Behold, Rabbi, that fig tree which you cursed has dried up. And Yeshua answered and said to them, Let the faith of Elohim be in you. Let the Aman of Elohim be in you. Verse 23, For truly I say to you, that he who says to this mountain, Be lifted up and fall into the sea, and does not become divided in his heart, but believes that will happen, that thing which he said he will have. Because of this, I say to you that everything that you pray for and ask for, you believe that you will receive it and it will be to you. And when you stand to pray, forgive anything that you have against anyone, that your Father who is in heaven may also forgive you your transgressions. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father who is in heaven forgive you your transgressions. Footnote 49. Many ancient Jewish prayers require some or all portions to be read while standing. Perhaps the most famous one that goes back to Yeshua's day is the Amidah, which is principally said during the Yom Kippur service as well as other sacred occasions. And they came again to Yerushalayim, and while he was talking in the temple, the chief priests and scribes and elders came to him, and they said to him, "By what authority do you do these things? And who gave this authority to you that you should do these things?" And Yeshua said to them, "I will ask you a certain question. If you answer me, then I will tell you by what authority I do these things. The immersion of Yochanan, from where is it? From heaven or from the sons of man? Tell me." And they reasoned among themselves and said, if we say to him that it was from heaven, he will say to us, "Why then did you not believe him?" And if we say from the sons of men, the fear is there of all the people, for all of them did consider that he was truly a prophet. And they answered and said to him, "We do not know." And he said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things."
Havienu el har kodesh v'samachenu b'veis tefilosecho kemo shekasu Vaviyosim el har kodeshi v'simachtem l'kwai v'simachtem oy bebeis tefilosi.
First, let them think about how much forgiveness God has had to grant them from their childhood up to their level of maturation. They have had to make withdrawals from the bank of grace many, many times.
But forgiveness allows us to actually let go of the pain in the memory. And if we let go of the pain in the memory, we can have the memory, but it doesn't control us. And I think it's the fact that when memory controls us, we are then the puppets of the past.
In these segregated neighborhoods, when one side feels injustices have never been properly addressed, the memory of that injustice is held firmly, and moving on becomes difficult. There are stories of injustice on both sides. This is one. In the Catholic section of Belfast is a newly painted mural. It remembers a night in 1973 when 6 young men in a section of the city called the New Lodge were shot to death with high-powered weapons from the roof of an apartment building occupied by the British Army. The British government claims the men were with the Irish Republican Army. The Catholic community denies the men were IRA. It sees the shooting of unarmed men as murder on the part of the British Army.
I haven't come to terms with it yet, and I'm 63 years of age.
John Loughran was a toddler when his uncle John was shot. He's carried the hurt all his life. For him, any chance of moving on is tied to only one solution.
There must be either a degree of repentance or acknowledgement before you can forgive. That's my own kind of theological assessment of it. But in the case of the New Lodge 6, how can you forgive someone when you don't know who they are? Forgiveness in that sense is not on the radar. What we want is truth, justice that must be based on a degree of acknowledgement of what happened and the wrongdoing that was inflicted on a community.
The community felt so strongly about the injustice that recently they held their own inquiry into the now 30-year-old case. It garnered media attention, but no response.
Well, one of the problems with remembering only the injustices of one's culture is that we pass that on to our children, so that the children don't get a chance to see that, in fact, mercy can be part of their lives and their community.
When Bob came in to explain to the parents and talk them through that really it was looking into ourselves, beginning with the children in the playground and forgiving the person who tripped them up, the parents were well on board at that stage. We had nobody who withdrew from the project.
At the primary school level, introducing children to concepts of forgiveness begins through story.
They're not feeling angry anymore. They're beginning to feel.
And we do activities where, for example, they put on little glasses called forgiveness glasses, and they see the other person, the person who has caused the unfair hurt, with new eyes.
Can you now tell me one good thing you can say about your sister?
She's always there for me.
She's always there for you.
And they begin to see that that person is more than what they have done, that you can separate their offense from the person. As we continue to move up through the grade levels, we add deeper concepts about forgiveness. For example, the children learn to seek forgiveness and they learn to receive forgiveness. So by offering forgiveness, seeking forgiveness, and receiving forgiveness, they complete the entire package, and that opens the door for reconciliation.
The Amish don't teach their children about forgiveness in a formal way. They don't have a curriculum on forgiveness. Amish children see their parents forgiving or extending forgiveness, and that's how they learn. The Lord's Prayer is one of the first things that an Amish child memorizes and learns to recite. They hear Jesus saying, "Forgive 70 times 7. And one Amishman said to me, that would mean if there's 490 victims, we keep on forgiving. I think one element of this that enables the Amish to forgive is the strength of the community, that they don't need to defend themselves individually. They don't need to retaliate. Retribution is not part of their vocabulary because the community helps them absorb the hatred. The community support helps them to deal with the anger that they might have.
To be forgiven, the culprit must confess his or her guilt and ask for forgiveness. That move is positive.
But sometimes the process of healing, in either a personal matter or something as overwhelming as the Holocaust, begins by telling the culprit the time to ask for forgiveness has come. In the year 2000, Elie Wiesel was invited to address the Bundestag in Berlin on the occasion of Holocaust Remembrance Day.
When I entered this chamber, I did not leave my memories behind. I turned to the President of Germany, who was there, Johannes Rau. I said, Mr. President, after the war, Germany has done good things for the Jewish people and Israel after the war, paying pensions to victims and compensation and helping Israel more than many other nations have done. One thing you have not done, you have never asked the Jewish people to forgive Germany for what it has done. Why wouldn't you do it here, in the spirit of this solemn occasion? Why wouldn't the Bundestag simply let it be known to Germany and its allies and its friends, especially to the young people, that you ask the Jewish people to forgive Germany for what the Third Reich has done, in Germany's name to so many of us. Do it, and it will have extraordinary repercussions in the world.
2 weeks later, Johannes Rau traveled to Jerusalem and addressed the Israeli Knesset. He spoke before a large crowd, but a number of Knesset members refused to attend.
Im Angesicht des Volkes Israel verneige ich mich in Demut vor den Ermordeten, die keine Gräber haben, an denen ich sie um Vergebung bitten könnte. Ich bitte um Vergebung für das, was Deutsche getan haben, für mich und meine Generation, um unserer Kinder und Kindeskinder willen, deren Zukunft ich an der Seite der Kinder Israels sehen möchte.
As a result of that speech, a new program was put in place that each year brings Israeli students to Germany. It's a small step to try to heal one of humanity's deepest wounds. But it came about because one victim stood up and said, "The time to talk about forgiveness has finally come."
But at some point, there has to be the movement beyond the fixation that by my holding this in my mind, in some way, I am going to improve the situation or reverse the situation or show adequate atonement for the situation. These offenses can never be adequately atoned, even if we stayed up all night saying, I hate him, 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 and then get another group to pick up where you left off. It is not possible to achieve by vigilance in anger and revenge what the soul is longing for. The soul wishes peace.
You know, the space that they're creating in New York City where the Twin Towers went down. There was a proposal to set aside a portion of that space, a small portion of that space, as a garden of forgiveness.
I think America's ready for some sort of shake-up idea. It needs to change. The thought processes need to move from I've been wronged to I would like to embrace another idea instead of anger, instead of bitterness, instead of war, instead of hate, instead of bias or prejudice. These are not things we need to be teaching our children.
We need a garden of forgiveness. I don't know that we're ready for it. I really don't know.
For these three women, the tragedy of 9/11 was painful enough, but what happened next, in their minds, was unforgivable. That was the decision about what to do with the tons of debris that included the remains of their loved ones and hundreds of others.
1 million tons of destruction, rubble, debris, sadness, anger, as well as hope, all removed, sterile, whitewashed.
Everything was removed from the World Trade Center site as quickly as possible, carted over to Staten Island to a dump, ironically named Fresh Kills Landfill. And things were sorted there. Certainly body parts were found there. A piece of my son was found there. My son's wallet was found there. This is our cemetery.
I want him out. And now I'm mad. And now I'm not going to forgive anybody until they get him out of there. My son just got the Medal of Honor. 343 firemen got the Medal of Honor. And they're in the garbage. Will you please explain to me what sense this makes? What sense does that make? How can I forgive him?
Over the years, the initial piles of debris have been covered up with soil, leaving what looks like a quiet hillside. Yet some things refuse to be buried. the day of dedication for the Garden of Forgiveness. For Alexandra Asali, it's a hopeful sign that some in Beirut are committed to moving forward. But for the 3 American women, the day is bittersweet, for it reminds them of how their loved ones have yet to find dignity in a final resting place.
Frank, this is for my boy Matthew.
Diane, Lynn, and I, we put our prayer cards in the soil under the olive tree that we planted. And I walked away from there saying I buried my son in Beirut. He's not in the garbage here. He's under this beautiful tree amongst all the mosque and the synagogue and the church.
I can hear my son saying, "Oh, Mom, let it go. Give it up." I can just hear him, but I can't. I just can't. I can't let him stay in the garbage. I'm learning more and more that forgiveness is something you do for yourself, and you don't do it for someone else.
Let's say a prayer.
So if I can learn to forgive myself, I will be unburdened. If I can learn to forgive someone for what I perceive as an insult to me, I'll be less burdened. I won't be focused on that negativity. I understand all of that. But understanding it and doing it are 2 different things. And I have trouble with it. I'm working on it, but I have trouble with it.
Forgive your worst enemy. It will heal your soul and it will set you free. I, Eva Moses Kaur, a twin who survived as a child Joseph Mengele's experiment at Auschwitz 50 years ago, hereby give amnesty to all Nazis who participated directly or indirectly in the murder of my family and millions of others.
It's improper. It's improper. I should be permitted. I should be asked. How can you speak in the name of the people who are not alive anymore? I mean, I shiver when I think of it.
For more information about these videos, look at the video description and click more. You can then have links to my YouTube channel and the YouTube playlist, which has all the Aramaic English New Testament videos, Bible Hub links, and Odiote. So this is useful because you can click a chapter and go word by word through the scriptures and get details about each word and where they are used throughout the Bible.